You are now listening to Wave a Sound.
Welcome to Versus Mike History. I am your host, Michael History. In episode 98, Simone joins the podcast to discuss bringing young black professionals together, the art of maintaining a network, the importance of a solid team, and more. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you choose to listen. Subscribe to our newsletter for updates and podcast recommendations, and join our members-only community on Patreon for access to exclusive content. For everything else, go to versusmikehistory.com. Peace, family. Welcome to Versus Mike History. I'm your host, Michael History, and today we got Simone in the building. Simone, what's going on?
Hi.
Simone, Simone can introduce herself. What do you do, Simone?
I am the founder of The Mix most recently, and then I also do a bunch of other things. I'm a jack of all trades, but most recently I am the founder of The Mix NJ, The Mix New Jersey.
And what exactly is The Mix
NJ? The Mix is a young professionals mixer. It is a space for young professionals, young Black professionals like ourselves to have somewhere to go, to mix, to mingle, to have a night out, to have a time, to meet new people, to, hang out with the people they always see, whatever, but just really creating that space kind of for us, because sometimes it's hard to find the exact vibe that you're looking for, to find, similar people to you in some senses. So The Mix is exactly that.
Sounds amazing. So I usually start by asking everyone what they're listening to, and I'm just gonna ask you the same. So what's in your current rotation?
Okay, so I am like all over the place with the music that I listen to, but what has me in a chokehold right now is probably Brent All Mine, Snow Allegra's cover of Do for Love. And I have this playlist that I've made that's like a affirmations and like manifestation playlist. So that's like my morning like playlist, but I also play it throughout the day. So right now, those are like my top three. But like literally, when I say that All Mine has me in a chokehold, I listen to that song probably like 500 times a day, and I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah, it's a great record.
It is such a good song.
The affirmations thing has me a bit curious though. Is that someone like just speaking positive affirmations to you, like audio format?
Yes, but yes, and then there's also some of them are actual like records, like songs by artists who their like genre is, maybe like R&B, maybe like soft alternative R&B, but specifically they're writing affirmations in just song format. So it's a lot catchier. You say it more often because it's a song, the same way songs get stuck in your head. So I basically have a playlist of about like I don't know how many songs are. It's definitely over 50, between like 50 and 100 songs that are specifically like great songs for affirmations, just saying your affirmations, just, any manifestation, even, worship songs, like praying, like church songs, all of that. That's kind of like it's in one playlist. But it's definitely something that I like to play in the morning or throughout the day when I'm kind of just like, just to keep my energy up, just to keep myself, above water.
Very interesting to hear.
I'll share it with you.
Thank you. Definitely very curious.
Yes, I got you.
So let's get into the founding of The Mix. Like, you spoke about, wanting to create a space for young professionals to be able to like mix and mingle, but like what, inspired the idea?
I think, I'm a person that does like to, be outside. I like to be social. I like to go out. I like to meet new people, but I don't always like to do the same thing. I don't like to always go to the same places. And like, I sometimes don't like to be in environments when there's like way too much going on. Like the music is too loud, there's too many people, all of that. So I really just wanted to create something that was some type of balance. So, somewhere that you could, catch a vibe and have a really good time and have a good night out with, like I said, with your friends or meet a few new people, but a space where you weren't kind of like looking over your shoulder like, I feel like something might happen soon and I feel like it's going to get a little crazy, or people are doing way too much, or like that you're looking around the room and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna just stay over here with the people I came with. Like, I'm not really trying to venture out and meet these other people because I don't think that we would have a lot in common. I wanted to create a space where it was kind of like, I really base it off of like a New York City, like happy hour, like go to the happy hour, mixing and mingling people who are within networks, but maybe not in your specific network, but that you spark a conversation with them and you might want to continue that conversation after, that happy hour or that event, whether it's professionally, personally, or whatever have you. Really just creating a space for kind of like-minded people who still do want to be able to go out and enjoy themselves, but also want to be able to participate in those things with people that also are on the same path as them, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So, and you've been doing this for how long now?
So the mix I have only been doing since the beginning of summer, so May.
Okay.
But as far as any other like event planning endeavors I have, put my hands into, I've been doing it for a couple of years, but I never really thought to be doing it like this, like it's something that I knew in the back of my mind, like, oh, that would be cool, but I never really, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think I ever really had that stepping stone, or I really didn't have that opportunity to catapult to kind of making these very public events and something that's on a bigger scale than what I was doing.
And speak on those previous events and like how the type of experience that you gained, putting those together, even though they didn't necessarily inspire the mix, you still got that experience in early.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I'll definitely say, like, in my friend group, I definitely think I'm the planner. So I'm the one that is planning, most of the time I'm planning like the parties, the game nights, the this, the that. It's a couple of us, but I feel like I'm one of the main ones. So I've done a lot of, just typical like hosting, and I like to be a host. I like to host the game nights. I like to plan different parties. I like to plan different theme parties, things like that. I've done a paint and sip. I've done 2 paint and sip events. One was for Mental Health Awareness Month, and the other one a couple years ago was to like kick off Black History Month, but it was also to kick off my birthday month. So I've done, events on much smaller scales like that within my friend groups, and of course, it's like invite a friend if they'll want to come, but nothing, like I said, nothing to this magnitude. But being that that is my personality, just wanting to kind of be the host and be very social, I knew that I had it in me to do something like this, but I never really like took that leap to do something very public where it's not just my friends, and not just friends of a friend. It's like people I have no idea who these people are. I've never crossed paths with them before.
Right, right. And talk about the first one. How did it go in May? Because I'm sure it was very uh it was a big step, in the positive direction, obviously, but leading up to that first event and then getting through it. How talk about that experience.
The first one was, so I will say this. I've been, I've had nerves for every single one of them, but someone that does get like easily like anxious about things, I've been able to remain pretty cool, calm, and collected for all four of them. And I think that I was probably the most calm for the first one, because it was kind of just like, hey, whatever is about to happen is about to happen, and I'm gonna have to deal with it after. But like, let's just see how it goes. So while I was very nervous for the first one, I was also very excited to just see how it was gonna unfold, see, what it was gonna look like, because that was the blueprint. Like it was, every single one has been a learning experience, like there have been pros and cons to each event. And that first one was just obviously set the tone. Like, what can I expect? What do I have wiggle room to do? What other people am I trying to attract and bring in? So like I said, I've been nervous, but like not too nervous. I think I was more so excited just to see how it was going to unfold. I think if anything, I think I was most nervous just making sure like nothing bad happened. Of course, you always have to think of worst case scenario, and that was just where I was, like, worst case scenario, like how am I going to fix whatever might come up. But definitely will say I was very excited, just to see what it was going to look like, and just see, who was going to be there, and what, how are people feeling about everything. And it really paid off that I wasn't super nervous, because I was able to kind of work the room appropriately, because I wasn't scared, or I wasn't nervous, or I wasn't super anxious, and I didn't feel in over my head.
Right. That actually leads me to a question that you kind of addressed, which is, you're hosting your own events. Let's get into that. And how does that balance? How do you balance that? Organizing and hosting?
Well, I mean, the week before, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before that Thursday of the event is obviously very stressful, especially with the, how I was doing the RSVPs and the system I was using. People, last minute wanting to RSVP. That's really the bulk of the stress, just doing all of the, seeing who's coming in, seeing, doing the RSVPs, making sure everyone that wanted a table has a table. And then in the moment, I think really just giving myself time to prepare myself. Like I never arrived late to my own events, because then I would have been in over my head and I would have been scrambling. So I always made sure that I was at the venue an hour, or, at least a half an hour. I think the last one was the most late I've probably been, but at least an hour before the event started, just so I could, speak to the owners, speak to the staff, see what they needed from me, make sure everyone was good, have my, little glass of Prosecco, my dinner, just to, make sure I was
right.
good, take care of myself first, and just make sure that, kind of assess the scene, assess the environment. And then, this way there are no surprises when if I would have got there late and there were surprises, now it's like, oh my God, what do I do? So that definitely helped with kind of hosting and working the room. As far, just to get into like working the room, that's hard, because I am a very social person, but it's weird to be in a space where it's a lot of people that and you love, but you can't even talk to them really, because you're trying to chit chat with everybody. You're still working an event. You still have to be in close communication with the staff, with the bartenders, with the owners, with the middlemen, everything. So that was the only challenge. Like wishing that, it would be really cool to hear about the stories that people would tell me, like, oh, I met this person, they were so great. And I met this person, and now me and this group of people, we're going to brunch. And I'm like, great, like this is exactly what I wanted from this. But it's like, damn, like I don't get to experience that, because, like I can't chit chat and have these long conversations with anyone, not even, the closest people to me, because I'm literally working the event.
That's very interesting, that people are like linking up and
it's been a couple like really good friendships that have like kind of blossomed from the mix, and I love to see it. Like I've gotten like three different groups of people have sent me like pictures of them out to brunch, out to dinner, just like hanging out because they met at the mix, and I'm just like, wow, that's incredible. Like that's literally the point. Like that was the goal, and that was my intention, and it's beautiful to see that happened.
Yes, that is amazing.
Yeah.
You spoke about speaking to venue owners and bartenders and whatnot. Talk about developing and maintaining those types of relationships with venue owners and making sure that you know everything's going smoothly and the decision making process in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a loyal patron to the venue that we were doing the mix at. So I already, I was a familiar face already to, some of the staff. I did a birthday party using their venue before. So they knew who I was, but obviously they didn't know who I was this closely, but I still had that respect offhand just as a loyal patron. So with the event, with the first one, there was a middleman involved. He was doing the events first, and he kind of like came to me. This was all the way back in November of last year, and just was like, "Hey, I'm doing these events. You should come out." And I was like, "Oh, this is dope," because the venue is very close to where I live, and I would go there and I'd be like, "Wow, this is a great space. Like, this is awesome." So he came to me and he's like, "Yeah, you should come out." So I would go a couple times and I would see, what it was looking like, or what it wasn't looking like, and then he had a conversation with me like, "Hey, like, how do you think I could bring more people in here?" And that's kind of just how it kind of like started. So he's always been the middleman. So at first I had very limited communication with the owners. After the first one is when I was able to establish that really good relationship with the owners, because I was putting a lot of money in there into their establishment. So, obviously that, I was able to pull up my seat to the table, and I earned their respect because, dollar signs equals respect a lot. So, that's definitely how I was able to gain their respect. And then maintaining it was just, we had hit after hit, I will say. Every event was successful. Every event was peaceful, and they loved the crowd. The owners would always say like, "Wow, everyone was so cool, so respectful, so just everyone was so nice." They would always say like, everyone was so cool, so so respectful. The bartenders were always like, "Oh, everyone tipped so well." So it was just that respect, because they knew that it wasn't some like fugazi nonsense. It's like, nah, this is real. This is something I really want to do. And this is something that everyone here wants to be a part of. And we're not going to mess it up. So I think that's how I maintain that respect, just the success of the event, really. And just me being the people person I am, and being able to kind of sit down and have conversations with the owners and with the general manager, and them really wanting to get to know me more and know, what my head, where I was headed with the event and everything. And I really enjoyed that. Once I knew that I really had their respect, that was great. And that just, made me feel a lot more comfortable as well.
That's very good. So the last mix that you had was R&B themed. I want to talk about themes and like themed events, and how that went, and why you chose to add a theme to the latest one.
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, I was out and I was at a party and it was an R&B night, and I was like, the next mix is gonna be an R&B night. I think it was like the weekend. It was either the weekend right after the mix or like the next week. And I was like, the next one has to be an R&B night. And I was like, I think that would be perfect. Close out the summer, slow it down. That was really the point. Like R&B, slow it down, kind of take in the last moments of summer. That's why I went that direction for the R&B night. And it's like, who doesn't love an R&B night, for real? So my thing was, all right, if I start with any themes, it should be something that I know everyone is going to really appreciate. And the inspiration was just knowing that, like, hey, I like R&B nights. I know my friends like R&B nights. We all do. So might as well do that to close out the summer and slow everything down, and kind of, so we could all kind of take it all in.
And what was the reception, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, so the last one I feel like is the only one that I wasn't inside of the venue as much as I would have liked to be. So I saw, obviously when I was watching the recap, the feedback, and everyone looked like they were having a great time. They loved it. They thought it was a great idea. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be as a part of it as I, previously have been. So I wasn't able to kind of feel what the DJ was playing and all of that. But I mean, the feedback from everyone was great. Everyone still had a great time, of course. And I think people really appreciated that.
Right. So you've been doing this basically throughout the summer, which I'm sure has put you was just helped you to rub shoulders with like-minded individuals and creatives. Um, have you had any experience speaking to or having any conversations with other networkers who or people who throw networking events rather?
Yes, so a couple people have, reached out to me. Just, one person in particular that has been doing this for a while reached out and was like, I think this was after the second one or even the first one, reached out and was like, hey, what you're doing is really dope. Like, we should definitely, sit down and talk like sometime soon. Like, I really like this. Keep doing what you're doing. And that was great because, like I said, this person has been kind of doing these kind of events, not the same exact event, but has been throwing these events catered to kind of the young Black professionals for quite some time now. So receiving that message was like reassurance, like, oh, okay, like I know what I'm doing. Like I'm doing something good. Like I'm on the right track. But yeah, there have been other people that have reached out, just kind of also to pick my brain. Like they might have had an event that they were already planning, and they were like, hey, like I see that you're doing this. Like, what do you think of this? Or how did you do this? And of course, I'm not going to ever withhold any information. Especially it's like it's only helping the both of us. So definitely, I'd love to be that person that someone was wanted to come to and just ask a couple questions, and I love to like help them. But yeah, definitely have talked to a couple people about future events, and I'm always down to collab with people. My motto is we're always stronger together, and we're never eating off of somebody else's plates because we have different food on our plate. So I'm never opposed to kind of teaming up and working together on something. I think it's better for both parties.
That's for sure. That is for sure. And what about mentorship? Um have you sought out any type of mentorship within this space? Is there anybody, available to you to like give you advice on these types of events, or are you flying it solo? And would you prefer to fly solo?
So I am flying solo right now, but I am open to any, advice and constructive criticism and feedback that I can get. I do have a couple of people that I could definitely go to them for, to seek counsel on certain things. I haven't yet, but they have seen what I was doing and they're like, this is so awesome. A couple of those people are based in New York City, so they haven't been able to come out. It's a little harder for them to come out, but definitely just getting the positive feedback and the congratulations and the encouragement from them means a lot. Like I said, these people have been doing this for years. So me, on my second event, they're telling me how like dope this looks. I'm like, really? Like, oh my God, thank you. Like, I appreciate it because, they've been in this game for a really long time. So while I am a person that does like to fly solo, I do know that I don't know everything. And, especially if I want the mix to continue to grow, I have to seek counsel from somewhere, whether that's, partnering with different venues or just attracting different crowds and whatever I want to turn it into. I do have those people there, and I definitely will and would reach out to them when I feel like it's necessary. And I'm always, like I said, I'm always open to constructive criticism, any advice, any of that. I think it was either the second or third one. There was a woman there, and she has been doing events for a while, and she was like, oh, how long have you been doing this? And I was like, this is like my second or third one. And she was like so impressed, and she showed me her Instagram and everything, and she was like, I'd always be down to give you a helping hand. We can collab, all of this. So having those people there and seeing what I'm doing has been great, and knowing that I can go to those people if I ever needed them.
That's good to hear. That's very good to hear. All right. I want to pivot a bit and talk about the importance that music, or the role rather, that music plays within your events, because the music has to be on point. And we got into this a little bit with the R&B topic, but with the R&B theme, excuse me. But in general, like how important does music's role in putting your event together?
Right, absolutely. So if I could tell a story about what happened at the second one, I think I'll be able to explain it a lot better. Can I do that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the second mix, it was the June mix. The DJ had a conflict and the DJ was not there. The DJ did not arrive until maybe like close to 11 o'clock. And that had me so scared. And I was so nervous because the music obviously sets the tone, sets the vibe, not just the good music playing, but good live music playing, the DJ interacting with the crowd. That is a huge component to a party, like, or to a function. I always say, like, when you're throwing a function, you need good music, you need good people, you need a good venue, and then it's kind of like the sky is the limit. But the music is the number one thing, honestly. So for that second one with the DJ debacle, I was so nervous, and it was like really nothing we could do about it. Our saving grace was honestly that it was the playoffs and it was game 6, and everyone was just so, obviously they were in the game. So it didn't matter until that game was over. So I literally kept saying to the staff, the team, I was like, listen, we're good until like there's 4 minutes left of this game. I forgot what time it was, but I think like, let's say it was like 10:45. I was like, by 10:45, there needs to be some type of DJ spinning something. Like, we're good because the game is holding us over and it's a good distraction. And, no one even realizes that we're playing off of like a playlist right now. But no. As soon as this game goes off, we need a DJ. Like, the music component is such a big part, especially how I like to design the event. I like that it was, a sit down, chill for the first hour and a half. Then everyone gets up and dances. And I love to see that. I love, because that dancing time, that's the time when you really are mixing and mingling and, kind of flowing through the room, end up in different circles, all of that. So music is key. Like I said, that's the number one component when it comes to wanting to throw a successful party or event or a mixer. Like, that sets it's like, not to be cliche, but that sets the tone.
Absolutely. And I just wanted you to speak on that a bit. So let's talk about the future of the mix. Like what do you see? What's in the future of the mix? I guess I'm gonna just keep it that simple.
Yeah. So, I will say that I have been planning for quarter 4 because we're knocking on quarter 4's door. So I do have events for the most part. I do have events for the mix planned out for the rest of 2022. I wanted to kind of take a little bit of a break for this month and not really do anything, but that might change. I don't know, TBD. I still have a couple days to think about that one. But I do want to start kind of tying the mix into things that I used to do events for. Like, I'm big on like fundraising and charitable things and really just raising money for the right causes. So definitely tying in the mix with more fundraising and things like that. That's something that is really close to my heart. I really do enjoy doing that. So I think the next few events from the mix, we will see that it will tie into something that has to do with a cause or fundraising for sure. So that is kind of like a little sneak peek. I definitely do want to do something next month for sure. And then, like I said, I do have events for every month for the next, for the end of 2022. I don't want to give too many details, but that's the sneak. There are more mixers coming. There definitely are. It wasn't just a summer thing, but it's been a very hectic kind of transition period the past couple of weeks. So still have to sit down and kind of talk over with like my team, what we're thinking, what makes the most sense, and then really start going into heavy planning action on working on, whatever is left. I definitely want to crank out at least like 4 to 5 more events before the year is over.
Yes. And let's get into the team. We didn't get into the team yet. Like, let's talk about, one person can't do it all. We try, but
yes, absolutely. So first on the team for the mix is Kyrie. Kyrie is my right-hand man. I went to Kyrie and I was like, listen, I have this great opportunity. I would love, for you to help me with this. I think you have great insight. Kyrie has a background in PR and all of that and in social media. So I was like, social media is the huge driving force right now. You can't get anything off if it doesn't look good on the socials. So I definitely, had, reached out to Kyrie and I was like, listen, like, I definitely need you for this. So that's my right hand man. Then on my team, I also have Lamont. Lamont is the middleman between myself and the venue that we were using. So he is the one that without Lamont, there wouldn't have been a mix at all. So big shout out to him. And then as far as the photographers, I have Amir. I wish I could tell you these people's Instagram names off the top of my head. I know them, but vaguely, like very, very vaguely. So I have Amir. He is one of our wonderful, wonderful photographers. He started taking pictures and shooting for the mix for the third one. And it's just been great content that he's been able to capture. And then there's also Chelsea, who was responsible for the film pictures that we were doing a lot of for the first few mixes. And that's pretty much the team. I'm trying to think. And then, of course, the great, great staff and the owners at the previous venue at the Brookdale, of course, them. Trying to think as far as anybody else on the team, but that's really the core team. And then, of course, all of, anyone and all of my friends that do like to support and, share the fly. I consider people like that part of a team in some way too, because, it's like, that's showing people, that I might not have access to, like, this is what's going on. Check this out, even if it's just a retweet, even if it's just a story, like reshare, like that's pretty big for me too. So I like to consider them part of a team in some way as well.
And that's what it's all about,
Everyone deserves their flowers for sure.
Everybody eats and
everybody eats. Everyone deserves their flowers. But definitely I express gratitude until I'm blue in the face. And like, I really would not have been able to pull any of this off without Lamont, without Kyrie. Like, it's so hard for me sometimes though, because I am such a type A personality. So I like to do things by myself and it's hard for me to delegate sometimes, but it's easy to delegate when people know exactly what it is that you need, like sometimes it's like, I will just handle a bulk of it on my own. But like, even if I like can't explain exactly like what I need them to do, they're like, okay, I think you're asking me to do this. And I'm like, yeah, that of course. And, they're on it. So it definitely would not have, the mix would not have been what the mix is without the two of them. And of course, without, the photographers, because they're the ones that are shooting this content that, people see on the socials and they're like, wow, that looks dope. Like, I want my picture taken there. Like, I want to go there like that. Or like, oh, I see that person was there. Like, I'm trying to slide. Like, so that's huge too.
Mm-hmm. All right. And I'm going to wrap up with one last question do you plan on, or do you see a future in scaling the mix up or even down to like more to like smaller, more intimate events, or maybe to like much larger events?
Both of them.
Okay.
For sure. I want to do both. I definitely know that I have the capacity and the network and the need for, those type of events to happen. So I definitely see both of those things happening. And that kind of ties into what we do have planned for the mix for the rest of the year. There will be an event on the smaller side, just, based on a specific venue. And then we are looking to do something way bigger. So I will definitely have fun getting a taste of both, kind of doing my first kind of smaller scale mix and larger scale mix before the end of the year. Fingers crossed, God willing, all of that.
God willing.
God willing. Glory be.
Right. And with that being said, Simone, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate the words you've given me today. And I appreciate this conversation. Has been really dope. I appreciate the insight you've given the audience. And, this has been wonderful. So let the people know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. So listen, I don't even know my own Instagram name by heart. Hold on. Okay. So on the socials, on Instagram, you can find me at Simone-Raquel _. Very simple. The Mix, you can find us at the Mix NJ _. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter and read all my crazy thoughts, it's Sim One of My Kind.
Alrighty. And once again, thank you for coming on. And everything Versus Mike History related can be found at versusmikehistory.com. Make sure you guys sign up for the newsletter. Staying in tune with brand updates and podcast recommendations and all that good stuff. And we'll see you at the next episode, Black people. Stay beautiful.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.